war no more. Gonna live in peace with fellow man. Oh, brothers, sisters, come and lend a hand. Beat my sword into a plowshare. Work the soil of peace with care. Gonna keep on marching, not for war, but for the causes that are worth my dying for. Every dream has a chance to be the seeds that grow are reality.
Too many times to ignore it. It's something I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. La da da dee da da dum, da 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 dee da da do. Thank you.
Hi, good morning and happy Sunday. It's great that we're here. I see y'all. It's wonderful. Today, as Reverend Linda said this morning, she said that the theme this month is spiritual living through open communication. And these are topics that are created throughout our whole movement. And we use them. And sometimes we take them exactly, and sometimes we kind of transform them to suit our particular moment. But the topic, free to speak freely, was given to us. And I think it's a perfect topic, and certainly it's a perfect topic for today, because this is our 4th of July Sunday service, right? Right. And so freedom and independence and what's true is just right up for all of us. That's what we pay attention to on this day. And it was very sobering to hear that Declaration of Independence. I read it last night myself, and I went, you know, they were deep thinkers, these founding people. They really thought a lot of things through, the what if, and how to compensate for those possibilities in the way it was structured. And I think we would do well to read it more often, and maybe even have it hanging somewhere to take a look at and read it, because it's actually the wisdom on which this country was founded. So, anyway, we have a great talk for you today, and I so appreciate the music, and it's wonderful to have Otter Creek back and to hear the Muses. Weren't they wonderful? Yes! And I see people in the audience I haven't seen for a long time. I saw that Carol Kostick is in the house. Where are you? Yay, Carol, welcome back. It's great. And for all of the rest of you who haven't been here for a while, we're happy that you're here. So this is an exciting day for a whole lot of reasons. One, the topic, and two, where it took me, and three, the moment that this community is at right now, which we've been preparing for. And so I want to invite, first of all, I want to ask everybody who's on the Leadership Council, if you're in the room, would you please stand and let us see you and acknowledge you? Yes. I know Kurt just left the room a second ago, but he is here in the building. And Wendy's here, that's great. And Rob was here too. And anyway, they're probably out working. So we're happy to have such an amazing Leadership Council. And this was one of the things that everything we did in the past few months guided us to. And so I almost said Reverend Carrie now. I did that to Mary one time. So I don't know, honey, but I know you are going to do your prac license. So Reverend Carrie. This is the president of our Leadership Council, Carrie Jolly.
Thank you. And that was not an announcement, just saying.
Not that we know.
Not yet. Anyway, good morning, everyone. It's so lovely to see you all here today. The Leadership Council has some exciting forward movement in the candidating process, and it is now time for us to put together the selection committee. So what we're looking for, some of the things that we're looking for from the congregation is input on what type of minister you'd like to have here, the traits, the qualities, the characteristics, the role of the minister that we would like to see, and also what direction you would like the center to go in to take in the future. So one of the things that we'll be doing is we have some congregation surveys here. Christopher has some. There will be some in the back. If you want to get one from Christopher, we'll also have some in the back table for you to fill out. We would like to have your input by next Sunday. So if you could take a minute, send that to us. We'll also be emailing some forms out just so that we could really get to know what you guys are wanting as a community. In moving on to the selection committee, you do need to be a member to be participating in the selection committee. The committee will be chosen by the Leadership Council. There will be 3 to 5 members, possibly up to 7, but 7 would be the maximum on our selection committee. And with guidance from the Home Office, we'll be looking at having representation from the Leadership Council, practitioner, youth and family, teen and young adults. Also, we'd like long-term members and newer members. What we're looking for is a great variety of thoughts, people that are very open to seeing what next can happen within our community. So if you feel that there's someone that you would really feel that would be great on this selection committee, please let the Leadership Council know. You could also write it on the back of these congregation surveys. You could also write it on the back of here. Anyone that you think would really be a great benefit for that. Some of the next thing we're going to be doing is the selection committee, which we would like to have, like I said, everyone available, or all the nominees in by this next Sunday, with the congregant survey as well. And then we would like to be able to get to the point where we can move to the co-creation process in August. After that is done, then we would be moving, hopefully, September, October into the candidating process. And the selection committee will be choosing those people that are going to come and speak to us during the candidating process. So please let us know whatever thoughts you have on that. Also, as we move forward, it is also time to say thank you very much to Reverend Barbara. Reverend Barbara has been with us for almost a year now. 8 months, and it is time for us to let her move on to some new and exciting grand adventures in life. So having said that, Reverend Barbara's last day with us as our interim minister will be on Sunday, July 16th. I know. So she'll be spending the next few weeks just doing a transfer of knowledge into others into the community. There's so very much to thank Reverend Barbara for. She has done so much for us during the time she's been with us. Her dedication, love, commitment, and her teaching. Her consciousness has helped us settle a debt that seemed overwhelming. Volunteerism has increased, as well as committee participation, and people are really wanting to get involved. She's given her energy, her enthusiasm, and her creative ideas. She's given us workshops, short courses, and increased attendance for all of our community. There's so many things that Reverend Barbara has brought to us. So please take some time during the next few weeks to let her know how she has enhanced your life. Also, we will be having on the 16th after service a pitch-in, or what do you call them here? Potluck. I just got back from Indiana. They call them pitch-ins. I couldn't remember what we say here. So we'll be having a potluck on the 16th after service for Reverend Barbara to, again, thank her for all that she has done for us. Since she is moving on, Selena has agreed to step in and be our CAO until our senior minister is chosen. She did a wonderful job last time, and I know she'll do a fantastic job for us again. She is unable to be with us today, but she did send a letter. So I'll quickly read that to you, and then we can turn it back over to Reverend Barbara. So from Selena, hi all. Sorry I couldn't be with you in person today, but I am visiting with my new great-grandson Liam, who has already stolen my heart and the rest of my beautiful family. As Carrie told you, your wonderful leadership council has asked me to step back in as acting CAO during the candidating process. I am delighted to be of service and excited for this next part of our journey. I feel the work your former leadership council, Reverend Barbara, and everyone else who has stepped up for this past year have prepared us for this next step, and your wonderful new leadership council are the perfect crew for steering us and keeping things balanced during this process. Over the next few weeks, they will be impaneling a selection committee from cross-selection of our community and the energy, skills, and ability to represent your voice in this process. The first thing the committee will be doing is determining what we are looking for in our new minister. This will be done via survey, which we will be distributing beginning today to solicit your ideas on the role of our minister and the qualities required to fulfill that role. Please give these questions some thought. We will have the forms again next week, so you could appreciate your feedback by next Sunday. You can turn your answers into any of the Leadership Council members. Your response will guide the committee as they go into the co-creation process workshop, which will be scheduled in the next month. The purpose of this process is not to find a new minister, but to create a mental equivalent of a new minister that is in alignment with the highest aspirations of our congregation. The selection committee will be choosing a group of about 12 to 15 members of the congregation who represent a maximum number of different views within the church to participate in the co-creation process. If you are interested in being part of this group, please speak with Carrie or myself over the next month. The selection committee and the people participating in the co-creation workshop will develop a church profile for home office. This is the biographical sketch of our church, which will be distributed to all CSL ministers. Interested ministers will have home office send their resume to the committee for review. The committee will screen all ministerial applicants. The candidates who appear to meet our needs will be invited here for a weekend. During the weekend, they will meet with the selection committee, the Board of Trustees, Core Council, the practitioners, and various other groups and committees within the church. They will give the Sunday sermon as well as a class and/or a workshop. After the Sunday sermon, they will be available during the social time to meet with the entire congregation. We urge you to be present as much as possible. After each session, you will be asked to complete an evaluation sheet. This information will be reviewed by the committee members and summarized for the Board of Trustees and Core Council. When the committee makes the recommendation to the Board of Trustees, Core Council, these visits will be well publicized and I cannot emphasize enough how important it is that everyone participate in the process. Please make a commitment to be involved in this activity until the selection process is completed. This will include regularly attending church, thinking about what you desire from our minister, providing the committee with feedback, continuing your financial support, and keeping the committee with our church in your treatments. This time of transition can be a wonderful opportunity for us to come together and as an even stronger church family. Let us join together in knowing that we are divinely guided, that we share a common goal in finding our right spiritual leader to minister to us. With love and gratitude, Selena. Thank you.
How many people here love change? Not too many, huh? Oh, come on, let me see. Really, how many people love change? Yes. We're wired for it. We're not meant to be stagnant. We're meant to grow. We're meant to flow. We're meant to stretch, you know. When my son was young, you know, I use him a lot. Isn't that fun? He's such a good one to use. So we used to have a boa constrictor. And he was into snakes and reptiles and all those kinds of things. And we had this boa named George, and he had some kind of bone thing that wasn't quite right, and so his spine was lumpy. He had these little lumps, and that's why maybe we got him for free. But, we came to love him. And when we'd do story time at night, Andy would wrap boa George around his neck. Sometimes I would even have George around my neck. Can't imagine it now, but that was in my 30s, so... Well, that's not true. Actually, I'm getting a little more that way again. Anyway, George would get cranky at certain times. Have you ever had a snake? Anybody ever have a snake? Yeah. They're really quite amazing. Yeah, well, when they get big enough to feed them chickens, I don't like them. We got rid of George when he was at the rabbit stage. But George would get cranky at certain times, and when we first got him, we didn't understand it. He'd hide, or he'd snap, or he'd hiss, or. But what he was really doing was he was getting ready for change. And he knew it was coming. And I don't know if animals like or don't like those kinds of moments, but he was preparing for change. So he was going through his stuff. Because in order to change, we have to go through our stuff. We have to see where we are, what's calling us forward, what matters, what really is important to us. And is the change, last week we talked about, are your feet moving in the direction of your values? That was last week's. So is the change that's being called from you by life, in any other vehicle, it's just our life. Our life is the vehicle where spirit can change us, where we can grow. Just like George, it can be a little bit uncomfortable when you're called to something that you're not at the moment. Or in order to change, you actually have to let go of things that you've kind of held on to. Buffy St. Marie used to call them, to release your treasured wounds. Your comfort zones, where everything's easy, where it's all known, where it's always been this way in our family. You know the joke about the husband who says to the wife, "Why are you cutting off the end of the bone of the ham?" And she said, "Well, I don't know, And she thought about it, and she said, "Well, my mother always did that." And he said, "Well, why?" She said, "Well, I don't know, but maybe, that part of the bone is not needed. There's not so much meat on it. We'll put it in the soup pot." She thought about it, and she called her mother, and she said, "Why were you always cutting off the end of the bone of the ham?" And she said, "Well, we didn't have a pan big enough for that end." So, we come by our habits. We come by our habits, and we don't necessarily know why we do things the way we do them. But the point of change is to actually take a moment to see what are the habits that I need to get softer with or to let go of in order to follow what's calling me in this direction. And that's the same for all of us. We always are asked when we're changing, we're always asked to know what is really true for me. Why is this scary or compelling? What is it that I need to pay attention to that change is the vehicle for? And change is always a vehicle for deeper self-knowing. So if we stick our head in the sand, no, it won't happen if I don't see it, that's not going to help, is it? Because it's going to happen without your participation. And what Carrie was just inviting us to, and what Selena said in her letter, is to really get involved in the change that's happening for this community right now. And it isn't just starting right now. That change started a couple years ago. It might have started 20 years ago for all I know. I know that we're at a moment of some big change in this community. And it's going to rely on your hands, your heart, your consciousness, your ability to step out of the old skin and wiggle out of it like George would have to do. You'd have to leave him alone while he wiggled out of his skin. And then his skin would be tender and new, so we'd have to leave him alone a little more. But eventually he'd rejoin the family and he'd be bigger. And so our job as a community is to notice, where are we in that change process? Are we excited? I love change, really. No, I didn't like this one quite so much last week when I realized that the 16th was going to be my last day. Because, even though I promised not to get attached, even though I promised that I wasn't going to stay, I never intended to, and I never consciously wanted to, but there is something in all of us wired for connection. The scientists and the biologists are studying this today, that we have within us this, that maybe the biggest primal need is for connection. And so I have that connection with you, and you have it with me. And whether you liked everything I did or how I did it doesn't matter. We still have connection. The deal is, if it's really time to change in our life, life will use anything to move us forward. So if we don't have the chutzpah to decide ourselves, chutzpah, courage, a few other words, the things that it takes to move forward boldly. I didn't say anything bad, did I? No. If we have what's in it, in this moment, if we recognize it, then we have to see that there's something really important going on for us. And for me to give my best self to it is what's needed. As a community, notice, how do you feel? Is it exciting? I know that it is. I look at your faces and I see that you people keep showing up. Almost everybody here comes really regularly. Why? Because something in you is served by being here with this consciousness that we teach. So, change forces us to look at beliefs or patterns that no longer work. Things that are not healed. I remember, I told Carrie this yesterday, we had a little meeting, and I said, I remember once when I ended a relationship, a long relationship, 7 years. It was the most powerful relationship I'd had to that moment in my life. But at some point it became the best of times and the worst of times. And, if you've ever had that kind of relationship, it's like really hard to end it. It's like having a good used car, and you've invested in it so much, it's like Bertha's always been driving us around. How can I sell her, But at some point, you have to just go on to something new and a little more promising. Then you don't need a hammer to hit the starter motor, and it's just like it goes forward. And so I ended that relationship, and I knew it was right, and I needed to. But when my partner let me know that he had a new girlfriend, well, I got really upset. I sat in my rocking chair. I remember sitting in my rocking chair. I cried for 3 days. I'm the one who ended it. Why did I cry for 3 days? Because there was something in me that needed to change, and I had to recognize it. And it was the fear of rejection. Anybody have that in you? So when I realized that my last day was the 16th, my first reaction, I have my politically correct one. It's like, okay, it's kind of time. And we've been planning for it. But my immediate next one was, I'm being rejected. And I know I'm not. I'm telling you this because this is something we all go through. We all have something inside of us that is our little thing that just keeps showing up in our life, until we end it, until we release it. And I'm so happy to say that fear of rejection is not very strong in me. It lasted about a night. And I woke up in the morning, and Pat looks at me and she says, "How you doing?" I said, "I feel so great." So, when you do the right thing, when you make the right choices, and when you allow the correct order to happen, it feels fantastic. But in order to get to that feeling of fantastic, which doesn't mean there aren't moments of sadness. It doesn't mean that we're not going to go, "Oh gosh, I was just getting to know you," or whatever it is we do, or "I love you so much." It doesn't mean we don't have those things. We allow those things. It is the fullness of the life experience that we let ourselves have. Rick and I laughed so much a couple days, was it yesterday or the day before? Oh my gosh, it was just a business meeting, and we ended up laughing about so many things because we could. Because our hearts were open, because we were, willing to be with what's going on in our life. And so I know that Spirit uses everything to bring us to be who are we meant to be. And what is the greatest potential that is being called from us? I wanted to just remind you how I think. This is really how I think. This is how I process information. This is how I make changes. This is how I deal with difficulty in my life. That little center circle is the thing I'm working with, the issue, the idea, the moment, the change, whatever. And on the bottom is what is true for me, what do I value, what do I believe, where do I stand, what is the rock upon which my faith is built. And the top is what is possible if I weren't afraid? What is possible if I wasn't worried? And, the more we do visioning, the more we get into that mind that knows to not be afraid. And so when you know what's possible, then you ask yourself, well then, what is the habit that's in my way? What is the pattern, the old way of thinking, the skin I'm stuck in? Jesus called it, he said you can't put new wine in old skin. We're all born to change. We're all born to grow and prosper. And we can't get there by staying the same. And so over here in the visioning process, we say, what must I release? And then next, what must I embrace? What is really calling me? And so I want to tell you two things. I've had things calling me for 40 years. Really big, juicy things. Really exciting and interesting things that I have managed to ignore. And every once in a while when my heart gets open or some big change catapults me out away from all of my pillars and all of those, even me, I have tons of things to hold me down, because anyway, so I have my things I hold on to. But at some point, I have to see that there is something that's calling me that's so big and so important that playing small is just silliness. And I could have pretended that isn't so because there is so much about being here that I loved and do love. There is so much I've learned about myself that you have given me. We have been in such a dynamic, sometimes really dynamic, sometimes almost dynamic. We've been in all of it. It's been very juicy, and that's where you learn. You do not learn in your comfort zone, Ships are made for the sea, not for the harbor. So we all have to do that. We have to go out. So I want to tell you that in this month's Science of Mind magazine, which I read religiously, although I'm not a very religious person. I'm not, really. This article by Mitch Horowitz just had me in the first line. Horowitz had me in the first line. We need to storm heaven Mitch Horowitz throws down the gauntlet to new thought leaders and adherents. And then he says, we can keep focus on rearranging our sock drawers. Where's your sock drawer? What's in your sock drawer? I know what's in my sock drawer. So, my friend would say, we can rearrange all the deck furniture on the deck. But if we don't know that there's a hole in the boat, what good is rearranging all that deck chair? He says we can keep rearranging our sock drawers, or we can storm heaven. And what does that storm heaven mean? If you're not willing to storm heaven, he says, then why concern yourself with religious and philosophical ideas? This whole article is about the intellectual rigor that science of mind has its roots in. And he talks a whole bunch about how, he has one great line in here about catechism. Anybody ever do catechism? Yes. So, Pat and I looked it up. Siri helped us this morning. And I know what catechism is. I thought I did. But how to say it succinctly, we asked her. And of course, Siri is so smart. And she said something like, catechism is a summary of principles now in prescribed questions and answers. So catechism is spoon-feeding you. No, let me say that in a less. That's not very nice. Catechism is a very organized way of delivering to you the values, the principles, and the teaching, and in the form of questions, and so lovingly provides all the answers. Isn't that swell? And where's my part in this? Memorizing it. I remember memorizing the catechism. Well, what's the challenge with that? And that was the greatest wisdom at that time. That was from people doing their very best, just like we always do, right? That was like, let's give it to them in a way they can handle, in a way they can understand. Let's make it easy. Let's boil it down to the essence. There's nothing wrong with boiling things down to the essence, unless what you do is you boil it down to some trivia or some pat phrase. It's all good. What the hell does that mean? Really? There is in me this radical, inquiring, curious person that cannot stand when we settle for those aphorisms that we all know what they mean, we think, because we say them so often. It's like, it's all for your greatest good. I believe that. But when we say it and we don't know what it means, or when we only apply it when it's convenient, or when we only allow people to say it to us when we're willing to agree, then it's not very profound anymore. Then it's a catechism. It's just believe it because it's written that way. Inquiry is what is called for. And if we look at today's, what's going on in the world, and Mary's prayer was so beautiful about that. When we look at what's going on in the world, it will not be changed by some rote information in any great book. I don't care how great the book is. It will be changed. It will become what's possible based on what we do with it. And honest to God, I am so on fire. And the fire that I have been tending for 40 years is like in me right now. And things are happening, and I am called into experiences that I am getting downloads. It's just like, because I faced my fear, because I let myself feel that, this is hard, or I don't know how to do this, or, they don't like me, or I'm going to be rejected, or whatever that stuff is, because I let myself face it. and feel it and tell myself the truth. And that is the kind of spirituality that I want to be in always. I don't want to make nice, and I'm not really. I don't make nice. I don't. And sometimes it means I'm not very nice because I don't know what else to do. But I am learning that the power is when you tell yourself the truth and you allow it to be what guides you forward. I'm driving home last night, about 10:30. I was here arranging the flowers. Please go in to the cafe today and have a cup of tea and sit with a friend. Oh, I'm so glad you like it. It's my little pet project. And it started a couple months ago with Carrie, who's, besides being an amazing president, is a feng shui practitioner. And she said, oh my gosh, this room needs to change. And so we've kind of just envisioned it, and it's starting to change. Anyway, so I was here playing, putting little signs on the walls. Anybody notice those signs on the walls? Aren't they so cute? I've got a whole bunch of them, and they're for sale for $1 at the dollar store up the road. So if you want some for your house, go get them. Anyway, so I'm here, and I'm just, having fun. I'm getting myself ready for Sunday. I hadn't done my talk. I get in the car. I'm driving home, and there is a program. I usually listen to BBC World. That tells you what time I'm going home. And there's a program on about the 2nd of July last year. I think it was last year. And this horrific thing that happened in Bangladesh. And it was so horrific that I could hardly listen to it. I usually don't. And what I did in my head was, what do I usually do when I hear about something so challenging? The experience those people had was so traumatic. I think, oh my God, I've got a hangnail compared to what these people are dealing with. And we all do. We are so blessed. We have so much grace in our life. But there are people around the world who really don't. And we have to have a vision that is big enough to make room for those people so that we see them in our teaching, really no kidding, no fooling, where we see that they are equally endowed with spirit. And that is not just something we say on Sunday. It's not just like all the people of the world are meant to live in peace. And then we don't listen to the news because it's too horrendous. We have to learn what to do in our head and in our heart and with our hands and our feet about what's going on in the world, because Science of Mind has an incredible teaching. But we're not using it very incredibly yet. We're not. And this is what Mitch Horowitz is talking about. He says, oh my God, I'm so excited. I think we're at risk of reducing new thought into catechism if we don't find more serious, sustained ways of thinking and speaking about our principles. When philosophical ideas become catechism, when we offer stock template responses to the serious questions, then we become a hardened belief system that no longer searches for the truth. When recitation begins, the search has ended. He is a prophet. He is seeing something that many of us see in some way and haven't had the chutzpah to do something about it. That's what I care about. I care about this teaching really working. And the only place it can work is if it really works in me. And so it's no good to pretend that all is well in our world, your individual world, my individual world. It doesn't further, as the I Ching would say, it doesn't further to keep believing in the illusion. The only thing that furthers is to tell the truth to yourself. That's the only thing. Because when you tell the truth to yourself, then you're at the moment of power. And God, Spirit, Allah, everything is using this moment in our lives to have us take a stand for a greater possibility called Center for Spiritual Living Salt Lake. So we have an enormous opportunity right now. Enormous. Because we're ready. Because we've been grappling with the habits and the ways and the ideas and the patterns that have been created over whatever long this church has been, to be able to see it as it is and say, I'm taking a stand for whatever it is that's true for you. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to find, I didn't know it when I came here. Just like I didn't know it when I went to Ukraine. When I came here, I thought I came to help. But what I did was I came to learn how to be in the fire and find your truth. How to be in the thing, no comfort, you don't know anything. I mean, I remember my first night driving in that snowstorm and I didn't know where the road was. And I think of the things and how to do that with excitement because something was pulling me forward. And the same thing that pulls me forward pulls you forward. It's in your life. And you have something to do here. And I promise you, this is the time. And you do not need me to guide you now because I have given you my best. Really, you have it. And it's up to you to take it. And I'm not going to be a stranger. I love Salt Lake City. But it's time for you to find your own feet. There's a sign. I ran around the building last night putting pictures up, putting sticky things on the wall. So go and read them. But one of them, the very first one I put up, was about family. We are family, and we grow in different directions, but we're rooted in the same place. So treat ourselves like family, treat each other like family, give it the best that you would want anybody to treat your child in another city or to treat you. This is an amazing moment, and I have 2 more weeks to share how I love it and what is yours, so you can find what is yours. And when I come back and I offer a retreat in some beautiful place in some canyon that Pat keeps telling me I have to see before I leave, which I do, then we'll get together and we'll do something. But I love you, and I love this time. And Mary said, are you really emotional? Are you going to cry today? And I said, I don't think so. I mean, if I burst into flames, I wouldn't surprise myself, So this is good. And even when it's hard, it's good. Do you know what I mean? And if that's true for me, it's true for you. Yes? Yes. Well, blessed be. So part 1 of 3, right? Not bad. I loved being with you today. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Did you see all those little treasures I put back in youth church? Yeah. Oh my God, it's so good to give. It's so good to give. You know, one of the best ways to get over feeling whatever is to give. Last night I brought Missy everything she said she thought she wanted in youth church today. All those little things, I went out and got them and I put them there. You know, it's like, oh, I can't wait to see her face. You know, it's good to give. So this is our time for giving. Actually, before that, we're to pray. So let's pray. Everybody, practitioners, please stand. If you have something that you want to change in your life, please go to the arches and see one of these practitioners. Come on, Farrell, up you get. Take your joy that you want to really understand and lean into. Take the idea that's calling you for 40 years. Take it to one of these people today. Missy. Oh. Take it there and say, help me celebrate my life. Would you know for me that whatever is going on right now is the vehicle Spirit is using that I might find really what's most important to me? Know with me that this temporary challenge I'm having is a door opener. It's opening a gate to a meadow of possibility in my life. Please know with me that I am never alone. Know with me that I am the place where the Spirit of all things, this line, this direct ascension between all that is and me, this is where I stand, and my life is how it's expressed. And so this moment that's going on for me and that's going on for this community is what Spirit is using to manifest itself in the realm of form, as beauty, as harmony, as abundance, as family, as respect, as kindness, as love. This is what wants to happen, and this community is on the precipice of something so magnificent. And it relies on every hand, because it's not up to the board, and it's not up to the minister, and it's not up to the music director, and it's not up to the practitioners. It is up to all of us. And together we thrive. I know that's true. And so with courage in your heart, see the thing that holds you back and take it to a practitioner and say, help me release this so that I am free to speak my truth, that I am free to follow this inspiration that is calling me to grow, to be independent of the past. What a glorious moment. This is the heart of our teaching. Let us be curious. So I give my thanks. I give my thanks for this place, this teaching, each of these practitioners whose lives are dedicated to knowing the truth, to living in that truth, and guiding and supporting the rest of us to do the same thing. So we say thank you. Thank you, life. Take a moment right now to say thank you in your life, in the quiet of your mind. What are you grateful for? Blessed be. We let it be. So it is.